Welcome back to the second proper episode of Dream F1. Like we did in the last episode, we'll start once more with the main stories ahead of today's race. Our main story is the surprise 1-2 finish of Mercedes in the opening race in South Africa. Of course, they took advantage of chaos, crashes and strategic fumbles of their opponents in the opening race, but George Russell was pretty much the entire race just behind longtime race leader Charles Leclerc. Many believed they won't really play a role in the title fight this year, but after Kyalami, could Mercedes still be on top in 2022? And for our second story, we already talked about him for the most of the first weekend. It looked like a Charles Leclerc masterclass. After taking pole with quite a margin, he controlled the last race from the start, but after one of the many safety car restarts, he had to pit late for a new front wing, which ultimately had him finish all the way down in 10th. He and Ferrari are looking to bounce back in their first home race of the season. A similarly disappointing race was had by our two new teams. Out of the 4 drivers competing for the newcomers, only Nico Hülkenberg managed to finish the race, but still far from the points. Especially for Porsche, the first race was a major letdown. Can they step it up for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in Imola today? And like I just mentioned, we will be going racing today at the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari in Imola. It is one of F1's most iconic venues and celebrated its comeback to Formula 1 in 2020. The track is 4.91 kilometers long and we will see 31 laps of its 17 turns. We won't see a sprint like we did in the proper 2022 race at Imola. I don't really like that format, so I got rid of it for Dream F1. So we'll be starting with the proper race and we will be starting on a wet track. The rain has just stopped, so we will be running on a dry track towards the end of the race, but for now it is inters or even wets all the way. And now here is my fastest lap of yesterday's qualifying. And you might have realized that there were some mistakes in that one lap, especially towards the end of it. But at the end of qualifying I was on a much faster lap. But unfortunately I took a little too much curb going through Acqua Minerale and had my lap time deleted for track limits, so we had to make with that time. Well, now let's look where this lap puts us on the starting grid. And on pole position, once again, we will see Charles Leclerc. Right alongside him, Lewis Hamilton is starting, and then we have Carlos Sainz and George Russell. Then in 5th and 6th, we see Fernando Alonso and Lando Norris. These two drivers surprisingly beating the Red Bulls, who had a disappointing qualifying and will be starting from 7th and 8th. And behind them, it is Nico Hülkenberg, Esteban Ocon. A very strong qualifying for Alex Albon puts him in 11th. 12th is Pierre Gasly. Then on the second page we see Zhu Guanyu, Valtteri Bottas, Daniel Ricciardo, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda. This time we will be starting in 18th. So a little bit of a bummer seeing what could have been possible. We could have been right there with Zhou Guanyu. or Valtteri Bottas with our final lap in qualifying, but well, sadly it was not to be. Then behind us we still beat Kevin Magnussen, Nicolas Latifi, Mick Schumacher, Kamui Kobayashi, our teammate, in 22nd, and then Nick de Vries and Sebastian Vettel on the final row of the grid. Well, and here we are in P18, and we will be starting on the intermediate tires. We are quite surprised actually, because we are the only ones starting on the Inter, so this may have been a mistake. Well, right here at the start it looks quite okay, as we have a lot of traction from our grid spot, but now going through the Tamburello chicane we see that there is a lot of standing water, as we have to get a little bit off the track and then go through a massive puddle where we almost spin our car and lose 2 spots. So now we're down in P19, if I see that correctly, on our steering wheel, and well, into the Villeneuve chicane there's also a lot of standing water now going through Tosa, but we realize that the track after Tosa is getting much better, so I think for this part of the track we have the absolutely right tire, as we are easily able to stay with the car ahead. Now through Aqua Minerale we go. Oh, there is a lot of spray coming from the car ahead. So, well, this is also a part that is quite wet, but as long as we don't lose too much on these first laps, we will very soon be on the better tire, definitely, as there won't be any new rain coming, just like it was in the proper 2022 Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. So we just need to keep our car on track for the first couple of laps, and then we should be able to go a lot quicker, as we see, wow, almost... yeah, a lot of standing water in the final Rivazza there as well, as we are just running behind Yuki Tsunoda, but now we have to defend from Kevin Magnussen? I don't know, some sort of Haas behind us, don't know who it is, I can't see the number, I think it is Kevin Magnussen behind us, so we have to defend from him, and we make it through that critical bit here, that is the first chicane, the Tamburello chicane. And after that, well, the track is a lot better for our intermediate tire. As I said, everyone else on the grid is on the full wet, so they might have some sort of advantage on the first couple of laps, but time will play into our hands, and right now it doesn't look like we're losing too much of time, so the most important thing is to keep it on track now. We are still ahead of Kevin Magnussen. Yuki Tsunoda is gaining a little bit on us, but not too much. I think the gap remained quite the same as we slide off going through Aqua Minerale, so we lose the spot to Kevin Magnussen. Right now we're defending from Kamui Kobayashi, our teammate, right behind us, going through Variante Alta. We get close to Magnussen once more, but well, at the exit of this corner there is also a lot of standing water, so we struggle a bit on traction, of course, with our tires that are not made for too much water, but going through Rivazza 1 we close up to Magnussen once more. Here is a lot of water as well, as you can see from the spray, and therefore Kobayashi with much more traction going through that corner, but we get his slipstream and manage to get past our teammate once more, as we just started lap 3 and we are back into P20. And we're still right behind Magnussen, who will gain on us going through the Tamburello chicane once more. This will take some while for the water to disappear going through there, but eventually we will get to the point where we drive circles around everybody. Or at least that is what I hope. But I think we can definitely say right now that our decision to start on Inters was not wrong at all, as well the others will need to make a pit stop for the Inters when the wets don't work anymore on the track, and that point I think will come pretty soon, as and we run wide once again through Aqua Minerale and lose a spot to Kobayashi now, and right behind us is now Nicolas Latifi in the Williams, but going towards Variante Alta we managed to stay ahead of the Williams driver, but well, as I said, looking at the track, we are definitely on the right tire. It will just take some laps for the Inters to become much faster than the wets. So let's just wait for that point. Well, and we join ourselves in lap 5. We are still in 20th and still, well, managed to maintain the gap to our teammate ahead of us, as Latifi is trying it around the outside of Aqua Minerali, but we manage to defend against the Canadian. I think right now is the point where the Inters are starting to work. Behind Latifi there is Nick de Vries trying to make it past the Canadian. But now there still is Latifi, who is trying it around the outside. He is alongside us, and so we have to get on the wet part that is there on the inside, and we almost lose our car sliding on the standing water that still is there. We need to be careful not to go off the racing line, because it still is quite wet there. Too wet actually for our Inters. But we managed to stay ahead of Latifi, who is trying to make a move into turn 1, as we just saw that Charles Leclerc made it out of the pit lane and blocked our braking zone, but Leclerc actually just pitted for the Inter. So I think this is the crossover point right now, as cars are coming in for Inters. You can see it on our steering wheel. We are up into P11. You can see on the right of our steering wheel the short number, and yeah, this is just the proof that the Inters are better, because look at how much more grip we had going through Tosa compared to Nicolas Latifi, who was going really slow there through that corner. As well, the wets are now only, well, pretty much useful maybe through the second Rivazza and the first 2 chicanes, as well. I just talk about that Nick de Vries is just alongside us, but going into Variante Alta we managed to stay ahead of the Dutchman in his second race of his Formula 1 career for Porsche. Well, and now we will see more cars coming in for intermediates, and ahead of Latifi is still Charles Leclerc, so we should be in P2 now as we pass the pit lane, and well, we actually are. So right now we are running just behind Charles Leclerc in a podium position thanks to our strategy. And going into lap 7 now, of course, we have a lot of faster cars behind us as we run a little bit wide through Aqua Minerali. Now we're defending against Lewis Hamilton, who is the second car behind Charles Leclerc that has now pitted for intermediates. Well, I don't think we can hold him behind us for much longer. But it is a nice view to see us fighting for P2. Now towards the Rivazza. Ooh! There is still a lot of water there as we slide a little bit wide, and well, that has been a short fight for P2, but we're still in the podium positions. Let's see how long we can stay there. Well, and in lap 9, well, this is really the standing water, the big puddle there on the inside at the right-hander in the Tamburello chicane is really a hard thing still to manage on these intermediate tires. But now we are fighting Alonso, who is in an impressive 4th, Sainz and Verstappen, who are now just behind us. Of course, they are all in faster cars, so we don't expect to be able to keep them behind for long, as Alonso is already alongside us. They are driving in cars that are, well, we can't at all compare our cars to the ones they are driving. Oh, and I mean, you have seen, it looks like they are still on wets, but this has to be some sort of graphical bug. They are actually on the intermediate tires, so don't get confused by that. They're all on inters right now, so no one is still on wets. It just is some sort of graphical bug of Automobilista 2. We just had to let Alonso and Sainz by going through Aqua Minerali and once more into Rivazza 1. We slide a little bit on the standing water, and so Max Verstappen slips through as well, and we drop down to P6. Well, and going into lap 11, we haven't lost that much on Verstappen. We can still see him behind there, and now we have Esteban Ocon in the second Alpine. Strong race once more for the Alpine guys. And George Russell, disappointing race for him, who is now sitting in 8th, but of course he had to wait for Hamilton to make his pit stop, so that's why he is all the way down. He had to run 1 lap longer on those wets, and now we have to defend from those two. As there is kind of a dry line forming on the track, so I don't think we're too far away from the slick tires. But of course here into Tamburello, it is still incredibly wet through that first bit of the track. Afterwards it is all pretty much fine. Rivazzas are getting drier and drier as well, and of course offline there is still a lot of water. But there is kind of a dry line forming, you can even see it, as we actually managed to stay ahead of Ocon. Right now our car is working pretty well, so as we are slowly approaching the halfway point of this race, well, now through Acqua Minerale, this is where we are really struggling. Acqua Minerale and the Rivazzas, this is where our car is really struggling. But as I was saying, maybe we can start to dream about fighting for points. But it is still a long race to go, and a lot can happen, and mistakes happen very easily on such a track under these conditions. Right there ahead of us, we can still see that there is still Verstappen. We're not losing too much time compared to him, and it is not as easy for Ocon and Russell to get through. But I think Ocon just made it into the pit lane, and other cars ahead did so as well, so I think they're now going for the slicks as we still defend from George Russell. Later on the brakes, going into Tamburello, getting onto the standing water once more, sliding a little bit, but well, Russell has to struggle with the same problems, so we still manage to stay ahead of the Mercedes as we're getting a little more comfortable under these conditions. But I think it will get uncomfortable very quickly, as I think we might be forced to switch onto the slicks in a couple of laps. Well, I still think it's too early, as we are still struggling on some corners, even with the Inters. Going through Acqua Minerale there, this time that worked quite well, as Russell is now all over our back. But yeah, we still stay ahead, even if we struggle a little bit. So we're really holding the new Mercedes driver up. The winner, of course, of the South African Grand Prix. He won his... No, actually it was not his first race with Mercedes. We all know the Sakir Grand Prix of 2020. But he almost won that as well. As he now also comes into the pits, and maybe, I think we could be leading this race. Yes, we actually are leading this race. So we are collecting our first kilometers in the race lead here for our F1 career. Of course, this isn't really on merit, as we're still on the tires we started the race with, as everybody has already made 2 pit stops, and now ahead of us we're getting close to a lapped car. This is a Haas, who is really struggling on his softs, at least on the first part of the track, but this is where most of the water is, and after Tosa it is pretty much bone dry already, at least on the racing line, so we may even see the car gaining on us right now, and well, we actually see it. Wow. As we once more run wide going through Acqua Minerale, and therefore the car ahead gets even more of a lead, and I think we have to stop for slicks soon as well. And in lap 15, I think it is unavoidable, as we already had to let Charles Leclerc through, and now right behind us is the lapped Mick Schumacher, who just breezes past on the acceleration right out of Rivazza 2. So now we come in for our one and hopefully only pit stop. We decided to go for the soft tires and hope that they will work until the end. We already have half the race gone, so it might actually work. and the big advantage is that, well, the track is still pretty cold and there is a lot of water, so yeah, the medium and especially the hard tire might not be able to, well, we might not be able to get them into the temperature window as we come out in 5th. So we even gained on some of the cars that were ahead of us when they pitted for dries, but look how slippery it is through the Tamburello chicane. We managed to keep our car on track, but this will be quite difficult. But from here on, well, I have to say the softs feel like they are the right choice at this point. Well, and in lap 19, we're still staying in P5, despite having a lot of faster cars behind us as we once more struggle through the Tamburello chicane. You need to take an alternative line through there. I forgot to do that in that lap. The lap earlier, I did not have that much of a problem through there, as Carlos Sainz muscles past ourselves and up into P5. Yeah, so we're down in 6th now. 2 laps later, we see the next car behind us, and this time it is an Alpine. This is Fernando Alonso, and right round the outside ahead of Piratella. They are, I mean, we're a little struggling on our dries still, but they don't seem to have that sort of issue. And lap 24, we are still running deep inside the points. And it's not that many laps to go, but we are very slow. I think we are the slowest car on track right now, as we are still struggling on our soft tires, and it's we can't get them into the temperature window. It feels like they are always cold, and still cold it is. It is really a big issue we're having right now. And DRS, of course, now is activated, so we have to defend from Sergio Perez, who is now behind us in 8th. And going towards the Tamburello chicane. He's late on the brakes round the outside, and a good move by Sergio Perez drops us down into 8th. But, yeah, you could see there with an alternate line, we are able to go quite well through that corner. But, yeah, I think it's not impossible. We are slower than everyone running inside the points, and even the ones just outside the points, but we might still be able to nurse that race, or to nurse that points finish home. The most important thing is now to stay cool, don't crack under pressure, which is a hard thing to do, as I can honestly tell you. It was really tense for me in the car there, as this would be a sensational result, scoring points with that car in only our 2nd race of the season. But right now we have Nico Hülkenberg just behind us. He is a lap down, but we get nervous going into the Rivazza 1, and we slide off the track, and there we lose a massive chunk of time and a spot to Pierre Gasly as well. So now we are down in 9th, and Esteban Ocon, who is running in 10th, is just behind us. So, well, what was I just saying? Don't make mistakes, and we should be able to get the car home in the points. Now we have made that a lot harder, as we just lost 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds maybe in just one corner. And now it is a very hard job we presented ourselves with, but we have to emphasize this as well. It is only 5 laps. Everything is still possible. It just got a little harder. And, well, that was me cracking under pressure. It was just a stupid mistake. I don't even need it to defend from Hülkenberg, but, yeah, he just caught me off guard. Behind us there is another lapped car. Don't be stressed out by that McLaren you may have just seen behind us, as Ocon is trying it everywhere, and you can just, right now you can see we are slower in every corner on the track right now. I don't know what is wrong with our car, with our tires. We were able to set competitive lap times, of course not with the top, but we were setting regular midfield lap times, as Ocon is now right alongside us as we run a little deep, going into Rivazza 1 once more. And now we are behind Esteban Ocon, and he even has DRS. DRS might have been our one and only hope to get back at him. 4 laps now to go, and we are in 10th. And Zhou Guanyu, who is running in 11th, isn't too far behind either. So now, oh, and we almost lose the car once more, and we lose a massive, a little chunk of time there as well. So now we have to let the McLaren through. That is a lap behind, and well, he once more lets us through going into Tosa. And now let's just keep it on track. It is just 4 laps. Come on, we are able to do that. Just defend that one spot and please stop making mistakes. This was really so tense because we were fighting with a car that didn't want to do what I wanted it to do, and I don't really understand what happened, as really it was so strange. The entire race we were able to set somewhat competitive midfield lap times, and I checked the lap times. We are really the slowest car on track here, as we just see Zhou Guanyu behind us, and he is meaning business. If we don't crash, one of us will score their first points in their Formula 1 career. Ourselves against Zhou Guanyu. Can we defend from the young Chinese in his Alfa Romeo? We defend going into Tamburello, and we manage to stay ahead with our alternate line of the standing water. We even gain on Zhou Guanyu, and this is really giving us hope, as well it is now only 4 laps to go, and Charles Leclerc is right behind us, so he will probably even lap us, as Zhou is just letting him through. If he laps us, it is even only 3 laps to go, including this one, so there seems we're getting closer to our goal, so it seems a little less impossible right now. So yeah, going through Aqua Minerali, we are really struggling, and now Charles Leclerc is just behind us. To think that we were just 5 seconds off him. At one point we let him through ahead of Variante Alta, but Zhou Guanyu pushes himself through as well. So now we are down in 11th. But maybe it is still not lost. We are inside his DRS window, so if we get a good run through the 2 Rivazzas, we may even be able to get a counter-attack done on the main straight. We are close, but oh no! We just lost one of our rear tires. What happened there? Oh my goodness. I so much can't believe that. We drop out of P11. And we get robbed of any chance to score any points, as we are now out of the race once more. And here are the final results. What an unbelievable finish, and what an unfortunate finish for us once more. Charles Leclerc wins the race, and with the fastest lap as well, so the full 26 points go to him today. Lewis Hamilton finishes second, George Russell in third, so another double Mercedes podium. Very strong performance by the 2 Silver Arrows at the start of the season here. Max Verstappen once more a disappointing 4th, then Sainz in 5th. Strong race for Alonso, who finishes in 6th, even ahead of Sergio Perez. Gasly in 8th, getting 4 points for AlphaTauri, and Esteban Ocon in 9th. Zhou Guanyu, we already knew that, finishes in 10th. Lance Stroll gets 11th. This would have definitely been our spot. We definitely would have finished in 11th, which, even if we just missed out on the points, would have still been a great result. We would have beaten both Porsches, as Nick de Vries finished in 12th, Nicolas Latifi 13th, so pretty strong race for him. Lando Norris 14th, Albon, then Schumacher, Bottas, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Vettel, Hülkenberg, Ricciardo, and Kobayashi finishing last, 2 laps down. So terrible race for STV Racing. We are both pretty much off the pace, Kobayashi as well, but we at least, thanks to strategy, could have finished at 11th. But like this, we are 23rd and 24th. At least we get classified, as we DNF'd within the last 5 laps of the race. But still, this is a huge disappointment and terrible for the Constructors' Championship. But first, let's look at the Drivers' Championship. George Russell still in first with 40 points. Lewis Hamilton moves closer to him and he's now 4 points behind in second. Charles Leclerc moved up into P3 with his 26 points gained today. Carlos Sainz then in fourth, Verstappen fifth, Alonso sixth, ahead of Perez in the championship. Then Ocon, both Alpines had a pretty strong start to the season. Yuki Tsunoda equal on points with his teammate Gasly in 9th and 10th. Lando Norris 11th and Zhou Guanyu, the final driver, who scored points in 12th. Here is the rest of the Drivers' Championship. They are sorted by highest finish, and well, we could be where Lance Stroll is right now, all the way up in 14th, but like this, well, we are in 23rd. And let's of course also look at the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes lead ahead of Ferrari and Red Bull. Alpine best of the rest right now, and with a pretty huge gap to the rest as well. AlphaTauri then 5th ahead of McLaren with only 2 points, so disappointing start for the season for the McLaren team. Alfa Romeo now in 7th, Haas 8th and Aston Martin 9th, both with the best finish of 11th, so our team could have been in 9th if the wheel hadn't come loose. And well, Porsche also very disappointing, only sitting in 10th, and Williams now with the best finish of 13th is in 11th, so this will be pretty hard to beat for us. Well, and that has been it for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, a race that looked so promising for us, and well, it all came undone in the end, with us struggling on the soft tires, immensely struggling on the soft tires, and then even our wheel coming loose, and we didn't finish the race. So let's hope for a better race the next time around, and this will be the Monaco Grand Prix. I hope to see you all there. Subscribe to not miss that one, and leave a like if you did enjoy this video. Also, comments with feedback are very much appreciated, since this is a very new format and something that I've put a lot of work in. So if you have any feedback, feel free to give it to me in the comments. And well, as I said, I hope to see you all the next time, and until then, goodbye.